That is the use of these WNBA referees pretty much altering games, changing the outcome of games, and something has to be done in regards to that matter. The WNBA referees has definitely been playing a major role in who's winning games and who's losing games.
Did you see what just happened in the WNBA? A referee was caught on camera targeting Caitlin Clark. This isn't just a small mistake. We're talking about a full-blown scandal that's rocking the league. You might be wondering, wait, how bad could it really be? Well, let me tell you, it's worse than you can imagine. The WNBA's response to this shocking revelation will blow your mind. You know that feeling when something's off during a game and you can't get rid of it. Caitlin Clark has been experiencing that feeling the entire season. It's as though she's playing with a target on her back and the referees are pretending not to notice.
She got landing zone fouls at least 5 times that weren't called. She got the Kennedy Carter one that was called as a normal foul on the day. The eye poke, even if you believe it wasn't intentional, it's still a flagrant one. The Alyssa Thomas shoulder barge to the face. Like, there were a lot of blatant flagrants that weren't called.
Let's talk about Clark's unique whistle, and I promise you that it's not the sort you want. Rather, it's the kind that keeps quiet when it ought to be raising the alarm and that allows rivals to get away with murder, while Clark is left wondering what went wrong. Fans are yelling at their screens and scratching their heads at this particular whistle.
Lads, we watched the WNBA season this year and we know that Caitlin Clark's whistle was a strange one. We know that she had a very, very strange whistle, and we know that the reality of the situation is that she got flagrantly fouled 5 or 6 times throughout the year. It should have been 10.
Do not forget that matchup with Chicago. Clark is concentrated and determined as she drives to the basket. She has that look in her eye that says she's going to do something, and then she's on the ground, hard knocked down.
About Seattle, and all of a sudden, we're pretty close. This has been as close as it's been all second quarter long, 44-2.
This is where it gets strange. The identical scenario occurs in the NBA, and all of a sudden, it's a whole different story. The audience gasps for a whistle. But guess what? There's no call, nothing at all. It's like the referees suddenly turned blind or forgot how to use their whistles. We're discussing flags flying, whistles blowing, and possibly even a player or 2 being expelled. It's like night and day, and everyone is wondering why this double standard exists.
But now is a funny one because we're now seeing like the same WNBA media that were happy. Well, not even, I'm not gonna say happy, but like we're like, oh, these are normal fouls. This is just normal basketball. Now, when it happens in the NBA, making it a bigger deal. And this is where kind of the problem is that it was one rule for Caitlin and one rule for everybody else.
We'll go over everything that happened in both leagues, and you won't believe how different the WNBA is from the NBA. It seems like they play by a completely different set of rules, and Clark is caught in the middle of it. Let's talk about egregious fouls, the plays that make you wince just by watching them, the ones that make you think, ouch, that must hurt really bad, Caitlin. Some doozies have been directed at Clark, and the referees are behaving as though they had lost their minds.
There was also a stat that came out a few weeks ago that said Caitlin Clark received 17% of the WNBA's flagrant fouls this season, and 80% of those flagrant fouls were committed by the Chicago Sky against Caitlin Clark.
Imagine this: Caitlin Clark is driving to the hoop with a burning desire to score. Her eyes are telling her to attempt to stop me, and then she has essentially been assaulted on the court. We're talking about being knocked to the ground and hit so hard you can practically feel it through the screen. You would think it would be an instant flagrant, right? I mean, the rulebook states that excessive or needless contact is a flagrant violation.
Oh. Here's Clark. Her 29 points gets tripped up. The Fever really stretched out this one in the second half as we look at Diamond DeShields and Caitlin Clark.
People, hold on to your seats because you won't believe what happened next. The referees dismissed it without a call, whistle, or anything else. It was as if they were witnessing another game. The audience is going crazy, and Clark is on the court most likely seeing stars, but the game continues as if nothing had occurred.
Calls like this should be made, should be reviewed. People should know right off the bat. It shouldn't be the first round of the playoffs that players think that they can still do this kind of thing to Caitlin Clark, to Angel Reese, when Alyssa Smith.
And now for the real deal. This isn't a one-time event. We'll walk you through a number of these outrageous plays, not just one or two. The referees are giving out free shots as if Clark were carrying a target. When Clark is driving to the basket in the game against the Sky, Bam Diamond D's shield strikes her so forcefully that you would think they were in a boxing ring rather than a basketball court.
This one that we see right here that I believe should have been a flagrant foul was not called that. So there have been cheap shots, there have been hard fouls, there have been other plays that haven't even been called flagrant fouls. But when you have the face of your league getting nearly 20% of all flagrant fouls called against her, that is an issue. And that's not just an issue that the players have to work out. That is from top down. That goes to the commissioner level. Like, that is the level that needs to control these kinds of things.
And the referees are standing there as if they're waiting for a bus or something, with no calls, no nothing. It's crazy, but wait, it gets worse. You know Dananna Boner well because she made a move on Clark that will make you wonder if you're watching basketball or the WWE. Imagine this. Clark is going up for a three-pointer in a playoff game, and it's a pivotal moment. The crowd is standing, and what does Boner do? She undercuts Clark.
But a shot clock violation. Now Bonner and Clark get into it.
The referees are acting as though they left their whistles at home, and we're talking about a flagrant foul that could end a career. You might be thinking, come on, it can't be that bad. Maybe they're just letting them play. But the truth is that this isn't just physical basketball. It's dangerous. We're talking about plays that could seriously injure someone. Not only are the fans voicing their disapproval of these players, coaches, and commentators are speaking up and demanding stricter regulations.
I feel like the WNBA should be even softer and even stricter rules when it comes to fouls, even more so than the NBA.
Following these games, social media is a flurry of activity as fans point out the missed calls and compare them to the NBA, where the disparity is glaringly obvious. For example, NBA hits like these would have players ejected more quickly than you can say technical foul.
In both cases, the players should be ejected. This was bad refereeing. The media afterwards was biased. The refs in the W can learn a thing or two by watching NBA games.
This is where things get really interesting, though, because it's not just about the missed calls. It's about what they stand for. Consider why Clark is being singled out in this way. Is it because she's too good? Are they trying to make her tougher? Or is there something else going on? You have to ask yourself, is this how we treat our top WNBA players, letting them get knocked around like pinballs? It's not only unfair to Clark, it's detrimental to the league as a whole. Consider all the young girls who watch these games and hope to play in the WNBA someday. What message are we giving them?
Fouling and bully ball and excessive physicality in the game, to me, isn't as exciting to watch. And I think for a lot of these casual fans, and specifically a lot of these casual fans who have come into watching the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark, who plays a smooth style of basketball, who shoots from really far away, who makes great passes, who handles the ball well. People are coming for a style of play that is similar to that. They are not looking for post players to be posting up on one another, drop step, one step to the basket, cheap shot.
But what's the answer here? Do we need new rules or referees? Or perhaps the league should take the initiative and declare that enough is enough. Right now, WNBA officiating is looking pretty bleak, and if nothing changes soon, we might be looking at more than just missed calls. We might be looking at the league's future.
But the reality is that we all have two eyes. We all watch the games. We all saw that there were times where things were blown out of proportion. We also saw that there were times where she was very clearly targeted. We all saw that there were times where the referees didn't protect her. We saw there were times where Christy Sides didn't protect her. We saw there were times where she should have been teed up that she wasn't. We saw the de-escalation committee. We saw times where she was trying to stop Aaliyah Boston getting teed up. We all watched.
Now, you may be asking if this is a one-time occurrence or if the referees simply had a bad day. You're going to get a surprise, boy. This isn't a unique occurrence. It keeps happening game after game, play after play. It seems like there's an unspoken norm that lets Clark get away with harsh play, and that improving officiating might call for a combination of accountability and openness and consistency. A complete makeover might include new technology and training, and implementing NBA-style call explanations could improve spectators' comprehension of the judgments. In addition to fostering confidence, the league's candid handling of these problems would demonstrate its dedication to fair play.
I don't know yet if I've seen a player be suspended this season in the WNBA. Do you guys remember when Draymond was kicking people in the nuts and doing all of these different things during his season? He got suspended swiftly, and that was to set an example for other players, like, hey, this is not going to be tolerated. When they made it very clear that you have to let a three-point shooter come down from their spot, you cannot undercut them when they are going up for that three-point shot. That is something that needs to be implemented and enforced so much more in the WNBA.
However, one thing is certain. No matter what happens next, this problem won't be resolved anytime soon. Clark is too skilled and crucial to the game for this to be ignored, and as long as she is playing, fans will continue to demand answers.
Thing, you guys, and it might be controversial, but there has been a lot of talk about a special whistle that certain players in the WNBA get and some players don't. But I think that this is something, again, that we can compare to the NBA. Superstars are going to get a special whistle, and they should get a special whistle. Do you know why? Because at the end of the day, it's not just the sport, it's the entertainment of the sport, and you need to protect your superstars. And the WNBA has not done well this entire season of protecting their one superstar who brought in more eyeballs than anyone else has ever done in the league. She should have a special whistle.
We're just getting started on this crazy journey through the WNBA's refereeing nightmare, so stay tuned for more examples and breakdowns. If you think the no call against Chicago was bad, wait until you see what happened next. Remember how we said those bad calls were only the beginning? Well, hold on to your hats because this officiating mess is about to blow up in ways you never saw coming. We're not just talking about a few missed whistles, either. This is a full-on earthquake shaking the very foundation of the WNBA. Let's take a moment to look at the big picture. This isn't just about Caitlin Clark anymore. We're talking about a ripple effect that is completely upending the WNBA, from player safety to game outcomes. Come on, it's just basketball. How bad could it really be? Oh, if only it were that easy. Every time a referee blows their whistle on a Caitlin Clark drive, it's like dropping a stone in a pond. The ripples are reaching every corner of the league, and trust me, the impact is enormous.
And take notes from the NBA. What the NBA did elevated the product. Let these women score more, let them put points up, and stop these BS cheap shots. And the superstars on all levels, Caitlin Clark, Asia Wilson, Nafisa Collier, Sabrina Ionescu, Brianna Stewart, they should all get a special whistle. Nneka Ogwumike, they should all get a special whistle. Those are the stars. That's the privilege you get.
It's crazy, but it's true that all this referee drama is actually driving fans away from the game they love. You know how they say the customer is always right? Well, in sports, the fans are the customers and they're not happy. People are tuning out, turning off their TVs, and saying enough is enough.
Not calling some of these fouls and not cracking down on some of these cheap shots and hard fouls that are so excessive, not only against Caitlin Clark, but against other players as well. You see compilations of them online. Not cracking down on these are going to turn people off to watching the WNBA, and it's not going to allow the league to grow and people to be more excited in players other than Caitlin.
The WNBA is being severely impacted by this officiating chaos, which isn't just about losing a few viewers. When you think about it, fewer fans translate into less money, which means a shakier future for the league and bad news for everyone, from the players to the coaches to the hot dog vendors.
I honestly think that the physicality in the WNBA is going to hurt it in the long run.
Now you might be wondering, is it really that serious? Well, let me tell you, it is. We're talking about the integrity of an entire league being called into question.
The kicker is this. This isn't just about today or tomorrow. We're talking about long-term harm here. Every M-call, every non-flagrant, every time Caitlin Clark hits the floor without a whistle adds up, and the total raises serious concerns about the future of women's basketball. Don't think for a moment that this is the end of the story. Players, fans, and true basketball fans are speaking up, demanding change, and demonstrating to the world that women's basketball deserves better. The first step is changing the referees.
People want to see a fast-paced, high-scoring, long-range shooting game from these women.
One thing is certain, though. The ball is in their court now, and everyone is watching to see what they do with it. The million-dollar question is, will the WNBA step up and clean up this mess, or will they continue to act as though nothing is wrong as Rome burns? Let's talk about what this whole mess means for the WNBA. You may be thinking that it's just a few bad calls, but that's incorrect. This is much bigger than that. We're talking about the future of women's basketball here. Can you believe how this situation is changing the way people view the WNBA? It's not just about Caitlin Clark anymore. It's about every player, every fan, and every young girl who aspires to play professional ball someday. The league's reputation is on the line, and everyone is waiting to see what happens next, but this is where things get really interesting. This could be a turning point. Perhaps all of this controversy was precisely what the WNBA needed to shake things up and implement some significant reforms to demonstrate to the world that women's basketball is just as vital and entertaining as men's basketball.
There's a certain level of physicality to basketball, yes, but this excessive physicality that you're just like, yep, gotta get right for the WNBA because it's physical. It's like, no, get better refs and stop letting people get away with BS. It's not a quality basketball game.
Therefore, what will you do about it? Will you just observe from a distance, or will you make some noise? The WNBA is, I promise, listening, and it is up to you what happens next.
They should all get a special whistle. Nneka Ogwumike, they should all get a special whistle. Those are the stars. That's the privilege you get when you get to that level. But what do you guys think? Do you think that DiJonai was intentional in poking Caitlin Clark in the eye? Do you think the WNBA should review that play? Let me know in the comments below. Of course, thumbs up this video if you enjoyed it and click that little subscribe